The diplomatic shuttle moved through empty space toward the largest structure Taman Park had ever seen. Consul Prime stretched across the darkness like a metal city, its towers and rings spinning slowly. Lights flickered across its surface like stars. This was the heart of galactic government, where 847 different alien species made decisions that affected trillions of lives. Taman sat in the shuttle's main cabin, wearing his formal Earth ambassador uniform. The dark blue fabric carried the United Earth symbol on his chest. He was 42 years old with short black hair showing hints of gray at the temples. Before becoming a diplomat, he had spent 20 years in Earth's military planning defense strategies. That experience taught him how to read people and situations. He would need those skills today. Captain Yuna Kim stood near the viewport watching Consul Prime grow larger. She commanded the ESS Indomitable, Earth's newest ship built specifically for diplomatic missions. Yuna was younger than Taman, only 35, but she had already proven herself as one of Earth's best ship commanders. Her dark eyes studied everything with careful attention. "It's massive," Yuna said quietly. "How many people live there?" "According to our information, about 50 million permanent residents," Taman replied. "Diplomats, officials, support staff. Consul Prime is bigger than most moons." The shuttle docked smoothly at one of the receiving platforms. When the door opened, Taman stepped out onto alien ground for the first time. The air smelled strange, filtered and recycled through systems he couldn't identify. The gravity felt slightly lighter than Earth's. An alien waited for them at the platform's edge. It stood on 4 legs with a long body covered in blue-gray scales. Its head sat on a flexible neck and multiple eyes blinked independently. When it spoke, a small device on its chest translated the sounds into English. "Ambassador Park, I am Envoy Krillnak. I will escort you to the council chamber." The alien's voice through the translator sounded flat and emotionless. "Thank you, Envoy," Taman said politely. He gestured to Yuna. "This is Captain Kim, my security chief." Krillnak's eyes examined Yuna briefly. "Weapons are not permitted in the council chamber." "Captain Kim carries no weapons," Taman said calmly. It was technically true. Yuna wore no visible weapons, though Taman knew she could handle herself in any situation. They followed Krillnak through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. Aliens of every imaginable shape moved past them. Some walked, some floated, some slithered. Taman saw beings made of crystal, creatures that looked like living metal and things that defied easy description. None of them paid much attention to the humans. "First time seeing so many species?" Krillnak asked without looking back. "Yes," Taman admitted. "You will grow accustomed. Humanity is quite new to galactic affairs. Only 15 years since you achieved faster-than-light travel. Very primitive by Consul standards." Taman noticed the word choice but said nothing. "Primitive." He filed it away. The council chamber was enormous. A circular room with a domed ceiling that showed the stars outside through some kind of transparent material. Seats arranged in rising tiers surrounded a central platform. Hundreds of aliens already occupied those seats, representing their various species and governments. At the highest point sat Chancellor Vexthor. Taman had seen pictures, but the reality was more impressive. The Chancellor looked like a massive crystalline formation, geometric patterns shifting slowly within its structure. Light moved through its body in rainbow colors. When it spoke, the voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Ambassador Taman Park of Earth, you stand before the Galactic Consul. We welcome humanity to the community of civilized species." Taman walked to the central platform. He felt hundreds of alien eyes watching him. "Thank you, Chancellor. Earth is honored by this invitation." "Invitation?" Vexthor's crystals hummed. "An interesting word choice. The Consul does not invite, Ambassador. We integrate. All species who achieve faster-than-light capability must join the Consul. It is galactic law established 50,000 years ago." "I understand," Taman said carefully. "Earth is prepared to discuss membership terms." "There is nothing to discuss," another voice spoke up. A floating creature that looked like a jellyfish made of purple light drifted forward. "All new species accept the integration doctrine. It has been standard procedure for 50 millennia." Krillnak approached the platform carrying a large metallic tablet. He placed it in front of Taman. "The integration doctrine. All terms are clearly stated. You need only provide your species formal acceptance." Taman looked at the tablet. Text scrolled across its surface in English translated for his convenience. He began reading. With each paragraph, his expression grew more serious. Military vessels prohibited beyond home system. 40% taxation on all interstellar trade. Mandatory submission of complete genetic databases for all citizens. Technology restrictions on weapons development, artificial intelligence, and quantum computing. Required tribute of resources annually. Consul observers stationed on homeworld with unrestricted access. The list continued. Page after page of restrictions, requirements, and obligations. Taman read in silence while the entire council chamber watched. 10,000 pages of rules designed to control every aspect of how humanity would exist in the galaxy. Finally, he looked up at Chancellor Vexthor. This is not integration. This is subjugation. A wave of sound moved through the chamber, alien voices speaking in countless languages, all sounding surprised or amused. Krillnak's translator caught some of the comments. The primitive objects to civilization. How entertaining. They always resist at first, and Chancellor. Vexthor's crystals pulsed with brighter light. Ambassador Park, perhaps you misunderstand. The integration doctrine protects younger species from the dangers of galactic affairs. It provides structure, security, and guidance. At the cost of our sovereignty, Taman replied calmly. Earth cannot accept these terms. Cannot? The jellyfish creature floated closer. You have no choice. 846 species have joined the Consul. All accepted the integration doctrine. Humanity will do the same, no, Taman said simply. The chamber erupted in noise, aliens speaking over each other, expressing shock and outrage. Krillnak stepped closer to Taman. Ambassador, you must understand. No species refuses the Consul. It is not done. Then Earth will be the first, Taman said. He looked directly at Chancellor Vexthor. I need to consult with my government. Earth requires time to review these terms and propose alternatives. There are no alternatives, Vexthor said, its voice somehow conveying finality. The doctrine is not negotiable. Taman picked up the tablet and held it out to Krillnak. Then we have nothing more to discuss today. I will return to Earth and present this to my government. We will respond within 6 months. 6 months? Krillnak's multiple eyes widened. The usual time for acceptance is 6 days. Earth is not usual, Taman said. He turned to face the entire chamber. Let me be clear. Humanity seeks peaceful cooperation with all galactic species. We respect the Consul's history and authority. But we will not surrender our freedom without question. We will not accept terms that turn us into subjects rather than partners. Chancellor Vexthor's crystalline body darkened slightly. You speak boldly for a representative of a primitive species, Ambassador. Perhaps, Taman agreed. But Earth has a saying, don't start what you can't finish. I suggest the Consul remember that while considering our response. Silence fell across the chamber. Then laughter began. Dozens of aliens laughing at the implied threat from a species barely capable of interstellar travel. Taman stood calmly, not reacting to the mockery. A warning, Vexthor said, its tone almost gentle. How quaint. Very well, Ambassador Park, you have 6 months. Return to Earth, consult your government. But understand this. The Consul has maintained peace in this galaxy for 50,000 years. We have integrated 846 species without exception. Humanity will be number 847. Whether you accept willingly or we are forced to ensure compliance through other means. Taman bowed slightly, a gesture of respect but not submission. 6 months, Chancellor. Earth will give its answer then. He walked back across the chamber toward the exit. Yuna fell into step beside him. Behind them, alien voices discussed the unusual human who dared to refuse the Consul's demands. As they boarded the shuttle, Yuna spoke quietly. That went well. Taman allowed himself a slight smile. Better than expected, actually. Now they know we won't simply roll over. What they do next will tell us everything we need to know about their true intentions. The shuttle detached from Consul Prime and began its journey back to the Indomitable. Taman looked at the massive station through the viewport, already planning his report to Earth. The Consul thought humanity was primitive and weak. They assumed Earth would eventually submit like everyone else. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The United Government Council chamber on Earth looked small compared to Consul Prime, but it held just as much importance. Representatives from every nation sat in the circular room, their faces projected on screens for those joining remotely. Taman stood at the center podium, finishing his report about the meeting with the Galactic Consul. They expect complete submission. Taman concluded. The integration doctrine isn't a partnership agreement. It's a list of demands designed to control every aspect of our existence in space. Counselor Hyuk Shin leaned forward in his seat. He was an older man with white hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. And if we refuse? The Chancellor implied they would enforce compliance, Taman said carefully. The exact method was not specified. Dr. Minho Choi stood up from his seat near the back. He was Earth's leading expert on alien civilizations, having studied every piece of information humanity had gathered about galactic species. His research had consumed him for the past 10 years. May I present my findings to the Council? Hyuk nodded. Please proceed, Doctor. Minho walked to the podium, pulling up holographic displays that floated in the air above everyone's heads. Images of different alien species appeared, along with charts and timelines. I've been studying the history of the Galactic Consul, Minho began. Specifically what happens to species after they join. The pattern is disturbing and consistent. He gestured to the first image. The Vrel Confederation. They joined the Consul 8,000 years ago. They were a proud warrior culture with an impressive military fleet. Within 2 generations of joining, their fleet was reduced to ceremonial vessels. Their weapons technology stagnated. Today they serve as janitors and maintenance workers across Consul stations. Another image appeared. The Helion Collective. Master shipbuilders who created vessels that could cross galaxies. They joined 12,000 years ago. The Consul immediately classified their best ship designs as dangerous technology. Within 50 years, the Helions forgot how to build their greatest creations. Now they construct basic cargo haulers under Consul supervision. Minho brought up more examples. The Drex Empire, the Korath clans, the Silicon Brotherhood, dozens of species all following the same pattern, strong military forces reduced to nothing, advanced technology restricted or forgotten, independent economies transformed into tributaries of the Consul system. How? Asked a representative from the African Union. How does the Consul accomplish this? Very carefully, Minho replied. The integration doctrine has thousands of small restrictions. No single rule seems catastrophic, but together over time, they systematically dismantle everything that made a species strong or independent. The military restrictions mean you can't defend yourself. The technology limits prevent innovation. The economic tributes drain your resources. Within a few generations, species become dependent on the Consul for everything. Commander Ji-won Lee stood up next. She ran Earth's Intelligence Division, the organization responsible for gathering information about potential threats. Her team operated in the shadows, finding secrets others wanted hidden. There's more, she said grimly. Something worse. Ji-won activated her own display. My agents hacked into some Consul databases. We found classified files about species that refused integration or tried to rebel after joining. The images that appeared made several Council members gasp. Planets with scorched surfaces, destroyed cities, massive graves. The Consul maintains peace through overwhelming force, Ji-won explained. Any species that seriously threatens the existing order faces complete destruction. Orbital bombardment, biological weapons, complete erasure of civilization. We found records of 37 species that were eliminated this way. The Consul doesn't advertise these incidents, but they use them as examples to keep others in line. Silence filled the chamber. Everyone understood the implications. If Earth refused the integration doctrine, the Consul might decide to make an example of humanity. Hyuk spoke carefully. So our choices are submission or destruction. Those are the choices they're offering, Taman said. But there's a third option. We demonstrate that destroying Earth would be too costly. We show them that humanity isn't weak or primitive despite what they think. How? Someone asked. They have 847 species under their control. Millions of ships. Resources across thousands of systems. We're one planet with a few dozen colonies and maybe 200 warships. Taman looked at Hyuk. We need to discuss Project Vanguard. Several Council members looked confused, but others nodded. Project Vanguard was highly classified. Only the senior leadership knew about it. Hyuk made a decision. Clear the room except for alpha-level clearance. Half the representatives filed out. Those who remained were the leaders of Earth's major governments and military commands. When the doors sealed, Hyuk activated privacy shields that would prevent any surveillance. Project Vanguard began 5 years ago. Hyuk explained. After our first contact with alien probe technology, We realized humanity needed advantages that others didn't have. We've been preparing for this day. Admiral Daehyun Kang appeared on a screen. He commanded Earth's defense fleet from a secret base in the asteroid belt. We've built weapons the Consul has never encountered. Technologies based on human warfare concepts that alien species never developed. For example, asked a representative. The Consul fights battles with massive fleets and overwhelming firepower, Daehyun said. They rely on numbers and superior technology. But humans learned centuries ago that smaller forces can defeat larger ones using the right tactics. We've designed our defense systems around that principle, Ji-won added. Our intelligence suggests the Consul hasn't fought a real war in thousands of years. They've grown complacent. When species submit without fighting, you forget how to actually fight. But we're still vastly outnumbered, someone pointed out. Numbers matter less in space combat than people think, Daehyun replied, especially when the enemy expects easy victory. We have surprises that will shock them. Taemin checked his data pad. We need to accelerate our timeline. Captain Yuna reported unusual activity near our outer colonies. Consul scout ships have been detected in 3 systems. Ji-won's expression darkened. We captured one of those scouts yesterday. The crew is being questioned now. What did they say? Hyuk asked. They were mapping our defenses, Ji-won replied. The Consul is planning to place observation posts throughout the Sol system, whether we agree or not. They see it as their right. Anger rippled through the room. The idea of alien forces occupying human space without permission was intolerable. Taemin spoke up. I recommend we make our position absolutely clear. We send a formal message to Consul Prime stating that any unauthorized vessels entering the Sol system will be considered hostile. We establish a line they cannot cross without consequences. They'll ignore the warning, someone said. Probably, Taemin agreed, which is why we need to be ready for what comes next. When they send ships to enforce their will, we need to demonstrate Earth's defensive capabilities decisively. Hyuk looked around the room. This is a dangerous path. If we fight the Consul and lose, they might destroy Earth. If we submit now, they'll destroy us slowly over generations, Minho countered. We'll lose everything that makes us human. Our independence, our culture, our future. That's not survival. That's extinction with extra steps. Several council members nodded in agreement. I vote we stand firm, said the European Union representative. Humanity didn't come this far by bowing to threats. Others voiced their support. The vote was unanimous. Earth would refuse the integration doctrine and defend its sovereignty. Yuk stood. Then we proceed with the plan. Ambassador Park, send your message to Consul Prime. Admiral Kang, prepare our defenses. Commander Lee, continue gathering intelligence. Dr. Choi, analyze everything we know about Consul military tactics. We have 6 months before Taemin's deadline expires. Use that time well. The meeting ended. Representatives filed out, each returning to their responsibilities with new urgency. Taemin remained behind with Hyuk. Do you really think we can win? Hyuk asked quietly. Win is a complicated word, Taemin replied. Can we defeat the entire Consul in all-out war? No. Can we make them understand that attacking Earth isn't worth the cost? Yes, that's the victory we need. A lot of people might die proving that point. I know, Taemin said heavily, but the alternative is slow death for our entire species. Given those choices, I'd rather we die on our feet than live on our knees. Hyuk nodded slowly. Send your message. Let's see how the Consul responds to a species that refuses to submit. 3 days later, Earth's message arrived at Consul Prime. The text was simple and direct. To the Galactic Consul, Earth respectfully declines the integration doctrine as presented. We seek partnership, not subjugation. We will not permit unauthorized vessels in our territory. Any ships entering the Sol system without explicit permission will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly. We hope for peaceful resolution, but we are prepared to defend ourselves. The choice is yours. Chancellor Vexthor read the message in the council chamber. The crystalline being's colors darkened with displeasure. Unacceptable, Vexthor declared. Humanity must learn their place. Envoy Krillnak, authorize a compliance fleet. 200 ships. Send them to Earth system. If the humans resist, the Consul compliance fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system. 200 warships, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built. They moved in perfect formation. A display of overwhelming power meant to terrify any opposition into immediate surrender. Archmagistrate Kelvor commanded the fleet from his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. He was a member of the Kreth species, tall and armored with natural metallic plating covering his body. His 3 eyes could see multiple spectrums of light simultaneously. He had commanded compliance operations 43 times in his career. Every single time the target species surrendered without fighting. Scan the system, Kelvor ordered. Locate their military assets. His sensor officer, a floating being made of swirling gas, worked at the controls. Detecting minimal military presence, Magistrate. Approximately 30 vessels in orbit around their homeworld. Several dozen more scattered among the outer planets. Small patrol craft mostly. Kelvor felt satisfaction. As expected. They have nothing that could threaten us. Open a communication channel to Earth. The channel activated. Kelvor's face appeared on screens across Earth, broadcast to every government and military facility. Humans of Earth, Kelvor began, his voice translated into every Earth language. I am Archmagistrate Kelvor of the Galactic Consul Compliance Force. You have refused the integration doctrine and threatened Consul vessels. This defiance cannot be tolerated. You have 1 hour to surrender completely. Disarm your vessels, deactivate your defenses, and prepare for Consul occupation. If you comply, casualties will be minimal. If you resist, we will destroy your orbital infrastructure and invade your planet. Choose wisely. On Earth, in the military command center deep beneath the Himalayas, Admiral Daehyun Kang watched the message with cold eyes. He was a man who had spent his entire life preparing for war. Years ago, he studied every military conflict in human history, learning from victories and defeats alike. He understood something the consul had forgotten. Arrogance gets soldiers killed, sir? His second-in-command asked. Should we respond? Yes, Daehyun said calmly. Tell them they have 24 hours to withdraw. Not 1 hour. 24 hours. This is their only warning. The officer hesitated. Sir, they outnumber us heavily. Numbers aren't everything, Lieutenant. Send the message. Earth's response reached Kelvor minutes later. When he heard it, his 3 eyes widened in disbelief, then narrowed with anger. They dare? He said quietly. They give us an ultimatum? He stood from his command chair. This is what happens when primitives are treated with patience. They mistake mercy for weakness. Fleet, advance on their homeworld. Destroy any vessel that resists. Target their orbital platforms and military installations. Show them the price of defiance. The Consul fleet surged forward, moving deeper into the Sol system. On the ESS Indomitable, Captain Yuna Kim watched the approaching enemy on her displays. Her ship floated near Mars, apparently alone and vulnerable. But Yuna knew better. Everything the Consul could see was a lie. They're taking the bait, Lieutenant Yoonji Nam reported from the tactical station. She was young but brilliant, with a gift for predicting enemy movements. Good, Yuna said. Activate the packages when they cross the line. The Consul fleet moved past Jupiter, then crossed an invisible boundary that Earth had designated as the engagement zone. Immediately, things started happening that Kelvor didn't expect. Asteroids that sensors had dismissed as harmless rocks suddenly activated. They weren't asteroids at all, but weapon platforms disguised to look like natural objects. Railguns emerged and began firing solid metal projectiles at incredible velocities. Mining stations near Saturn erupted with activity. Hatches opened, revealing hangars full of automated combat drones. Thousands of small, fast-moving craft poured into space like angry insects. Orbital platforms around Earth that appeared to be simple communication satellites transformed. Their panels fell away, exposing missile batteries and directed energy weapons. What is this? Kelvor shouted as alarms began sounding throughout his ship. Where did these weapons come from? Unknown, Magistrate. His sensor officer cried. Our intelligence never detected them. They were completely hidden. The first railgun projectiles struck Consul ships. Unlike energy weapons that shields could deflect, these were solid chunks of metal moving at relativistic speeds. When they hit, they punched completely through ships like bullets through paper. Explosions blossomed across the Consul fleet. The drones swarmed around the larger ships, too small and numerous for the Consul's weapons to effectively target. They attached to hulls and detonated, punching holes in armor. Some carried electromagnetic pulse weapons that disabled systems without destroying ships entirely. Return fire, Kelvor ordered. Destroy those platforms! The Consul ships began shooting at everything around them. Energy beams and missiles filled space. Some of the human weapon platforms exploded. But there were so many targets and they were spread across such a huge area. For every platform destroyed, 3 more seemed to appear. Then Una gave her next order: deploy the gravity wells. Hidden stations near Jupiter activated devices that created artificial gravity fields. Suddenly, Consul ships found themselves being pulled off course, their formations breaking apart. Ships collided with each other or were dragged toward Jupiter's crushing atmosphere. "This is impossible," Kelvor's navigation officer reported. "We cannot maintain formation. The gravity is distorting space itself." "How are they doing this?" Kelvor demanded. "This technology shouldn't exist." What Kelvor didn't understand was that humans had developed these weapons specifically because they studied alien technology and deliberately created countermeasures. While the Consul relied on the same weapons and tactics they'd used for thousands of years, humans constantly innovated. Admiral Daehyun watched the battle from his command center. Phase 2. Release the Valkyries. From hidden bases on Mars and several moons, new ships emerged. These were human frigates, smaller than Consul vessels but incredibly fast. They used stealth technology adapted from submarine warfare. The Valkyries moved through space like ghosts, appearing on sensors for only seconds before vanishing again. Each Valkyrie carried one weapon, a single missile with a relativistic drive. When launched, these missiles accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. At that velocity, even a small projectile carried devastating kinetic energy. The first Valkyrie strike hit a Consul battleship. The missile punched through the center of the vessel, and the ship simply came apart, torn into pieces by the energy release. The explosion was visible from Earth. "Magistrate," a communication officer shouted. "We're losing ships rapidly. Current count shows 42 vessels destroyed, 31 heavily damaged." Kelvor couldn't believe what he was hearing. His compliance fleet was supposed to be invincible. They outnumbered the humans 10 to 1. This shouldn't be happening. "All ships focus fire on their planet," he ordered desperately. "If we destroy their homeworld, they'll have no choice but to surrender." Several Consul ships turned toward Earth and charged their main weapons. But before they could fire, new targets appeared. Human ships that had been hiding in Earth's shadow, using the planet itself for cover. They moved between the Consul vessels and their target, shields at maximum. Captain Una's voice came over the open channel. "You'll have to go through us first." The Consul ships fired. Energy beams struck the human shields, which flared brightly but held. The human ships returned fire with their own weapons, forcing the Consul vessels to defend themselves instead of targeting the planet. Admiral Daehyun made a decision. Deploy the hammers. High above Earth, in positions that seemed like empty space, were the weapons humanity hoped they'd never need to use. The hammers. Simple weapons, really. Just large chunks of dense metal with basic guidance systems. But they were positioned in geostationary orbit and could accelerate to incredible speeds using gravity and momentum. When the hammers dropped, they fell toward the Consul ships like judgment from the gods. Each one carried the kinetic energy of a nuclear explosion. Ships struck by hammers simply ceased to exist, vaporized by the impact. 6 hours had passed since the battle began. Kelvor looked at his tactical display with horror. Of his 200 ships, only 60 remained functional. Over 100 had been destroyed or disabled. Human casualties? Nearly none. A few weapon platforms lost, but no major ships. This wasn't a battle. It was a massacre. And Kelvor was on the losing side. "Magistrate," his first officer said quietly, "we must retreat. We cannot win this engagement." Kelvor wanted to refuse, wanted to fight until the end. But he was also a practical commander who knew when to cut his losses. "All ships prepare to withdraw." "Sir," the communication officer interrupted, "we're receiving a transmission from one of the human vessels. They're demanding our surrender." "What?" Captain Una's face appeared on the screen. "Archmagistrate Kelvor, your fleet is defeated. I'm offering you the chance to surrender peacefully. Lower your shields, power down your weapons, and prepare to be boarded. You and your crews will be treated according to the rules of war. Refuse, and we will destroy every remaining ship." Kelvor looked at the young human woman. In her eyes he saw determination and confidence. She wasn't bluffing. And worse. 3 weeks after the battle, a single ship arrived at Earth. It carried no weapons and broadcast peaceful intentions continuously. The Consul had sent an investigator, someone to understand how humanity had accomplished the impossible. High Inquisitor Mardeth stepped off the transport ship at the landing facility in Switzerland. She was humanoid in appearance, with pale blue skin and 4 arms. Her species, the Vex, were known throughout the galaxy as scholars and scientists. Mardeth had spent 500 years studying civilizations, understanding what made species succeed or fail. Dr. Minho Choi waited to greet her. Behind him stood Professor Sora Bay, Earth's leading historian and philosopher. Sora was a woman in her 50s with gray streaks in her black hair and eyes that had seen too much of humanity's darker history. "High Inquisitor," Minho said respectfully. "Welcome to Earth." Mardeth looked around with all 4 of her eyes, taking in everything. The building, the people moving about their business, the sky above. "This is a beautiful world," she said. Her voice was soft, thoughtful. "I see why you fight so hard to protect it." "We fight hard to protect our freedom," Sora corrected gently. "The world itself is just rock and water. It's the right to determine our own future that matters." Mardeth nodded slowly. "Yes, that is what I came to understand. The Chancellor sent me to discover your weapons, your technology, your military secrets, but I suspect the real answer is something else entirely." "Then let us show you," Minho said. They took Mardeth on a tour that would change everything. Not a tour of military bases or weapon facilities, but a tour of human history. First, they visited museums. Mardeth walked through halls showing humanity's long story of conflict. Ancient weapons from thousands of years ago, swords and spears, bows and arrows, then gunpowder weapons, cannons and muskets, then industrial warfare, tanks and machine guns, nuclear weapons. Each display showed humanity's terrifying ability to create better ways to kill each other. "Your species fought constantly," Mardeth observed. "For your entire history?" "Yes," Sora confirmed. "Humans have fought over everything. Land, resources, beliefs, honor, revenge. We've had thousands of wars. Some lasted days, some lasted generations. At one point in our history, we had weapons capable of destroying our entire planet, and we nearly used them." Mardeth stopped before a display showing the destruction of Hiroshima. "This was war?" "Part of one," Sora said quietly. "We dropped 2 nuclear weapons on our own species during a conflict. Hundreds of thousands died." "This horrifies you now?" Mardeth asked, noting Sora's expression. "Yes," Sora admitted, "but it also taught us. We learned what total war looks like. We learned that sometimes you must be willing to do terrible things to survive, and we learned that strength is the only thing that prevents others from destroying you." They moved to another section showing more recent history. The Space Age. Humanity's first steps beyond Earth. Mars colonies. The asteroid belt settlements. Then first contact with alien technology, Minho explained. "When we found that alien probe 15 years ago, we immediately understood something. We weren't alone in the universe, and we weren't ready. Other species had thousands of years more experience than us. So we made a choice." "What choice?" Mardeth asked. "We stopped fighting each other and started preparing to fight everyone else," Minho said simply. "Every nation on Earth united with one goal: make sure humanity could never be conquered or destroyed by aliens. We took everything we learned from thousands of years of war and focused it outward instead of inward." Professor Sora pulled up a holographic display. "Let me explain something about human military thinking. We have concepts that other species apparently never developed. Guerrilla warfare, where a smaller force uses terrain and tactics to defeat a larger army. Asymmetric warfare, where you attack enemy weaknesses instead of matching their strengths. Totaiva, where every resource and person in your civilization is dedicated to fighting. The Consul fights with overwhelming numbers and superior technology," Minho added. "You expect enemies to meet you in open battle and try to match your forces. But humans learned long ago that you don't fight the enemy's war. You fight your own war and force them to adapt." Mardeth was beginning to understand, but there was more. Sora took her to a simulation room where they could show tactical scenarios. "Watch this," Sora said, activating a display. It showed the recent battle with Kelvor's fleet, but from a tactical analysis perspective. "Every weapon we used, the Consul has access to similar technology. Railguns, drones, missiles. Nothing we deployed was beyond your technical capability. The difference wasn't our weapons. It was how we used them." The simulation replayed, highlighting human tactics. Hidden weapons that struck from unexpected angles. Small forces attacking weak points. Weapons disguised as harmless objects. Constant adaptation as the battle progressed. "You cheated," Mardeth said softly. "We fought smart," Sora corrected. "There's a human saying, all's fair in love and war. When your survival is at stake, You use every advantage, every trick, every piece of deception available. Kelvor expected a traditional battle. We gave him chaos. Mardeth was quiet for a long time. Then she spoke carefully. I need to inform you of something. The Chancellor is considering authorizing a full invasion. The entire Consul Armada, over 100,000 warships. Every species contributing vessels. Even with your tactics and cleverness, could you defeat that? Minho and Sora exchanged glances. Finally, Minho spoke. High Inquisitor, there's something else we need to show you. They took her to a secure facility deep underground. In a room protected by every security measure humanity could devise, Minho pulled up classified files. We didn't just prepare defenses around Earth, Minho explained. We've been in space for 15 years. In that time, we established colonies on 47 worlds. Not the 3 the Consul knows about. 47. All hidden, all using stealth technology, all completely unknown to your people. Mardeth's 4 eyes widened. That's how. Humans are very good at hiding things, Sora said. And very good at planning for the worst. Those colonies aren't just settlements. They're backup. If Earth falls, humanity survives. But they're also something else. Minho brought up a star map. Dozens of systems were marked throughout the galaxy. Each colony has weapon platforms. Kinetic missiles that can reach nearby systems. We've spent 15 years positioning weapons throughout the galaxy. Positioned where? Mardeth asked, though she was beginning to guess. Near every major Consul world, Minho said quietly. If the Consul attacks Earth with everything they have, automated systems will trigger. Kinetic weapons will launch simultaneously at 847 targets, every homeworld of every Consul species. We can't destroy your entire civilization, but we can kill billions and devastate your most important planets. Mardeth felt something she hadn't experienced in centuries. Fear. That would be genocide on a galactic scale. Yes, Sora agreed heavily. It's the most terrible thing we could imagine doing. We pray every day that we never have to trigger those weapons, but the Consul needs to understand this. If you destroy Earth, you guarantee the destruction of your own worlds. That's not a threat. It's a fact. A promise, mutually assured destruction. Why tell me this? Mardeth asked. Why reveal your greatest secret? Because we want peace, Minho said. We don't want to fight the Consul. We don't want billions to die on either side. But we will not submit to subjugation, so we're giving you this information to take back to Chancellor Vexthor. Let the Consul Council understand what attacking Earth truly means. Professor Sora pulled up one final presentation. High Inquisitor, I'd like to show this to the entire Consul Council. With your permission, we can broadcast it to Consul Prime. What is it? Mardeth asked. An explanation, Sora said, of why Earth is the way it is. 2 days later, the Consul Council gathered in their chamber. All 847 species represented, all watching as Professor Sora Bay's hologram appeared before them. Members of the Galactic Consul, Sora began. You've asked how humanity defeated your fleet. You've wondered why we refused to submit like other species. I'm here to explain. She brought up images of Earth, beautiful landscapes, but also harsh environments. Deserts and tundra, violent storms and earthquakes. Earth is what we call a death world, Sora explained. Our planet has tried to kill us since we first evolved. Predators hunted us. Diseases plagued us. Natural disasters destroyed our homes. We survived by becoming adaptable, intelligent, and aggressive. She showed human history. Wars, conflicts, struggles. We fought each other constantly because resources were scarce and survival meant defeating your neighbors. Every human child grows up learning about war, either from history or stories. Combat is part of our cultural identity. Then she showed humanity's achievements, art, science, exploration. But we're not just warriors. We're dreamers and builders too. We create beautiful things and seek knowledge. We want peace. But we learned something across thousands of years of history. Her voice grew harder. Peace only lasts when everyone respects everyone else. When one side becomes dominant, they eventually abuse that power. The strong always oppress the weak unless the weak can defend themselves. Images appeared showing the integration doctrine and its effects on other species. The Consul has maintained order for 50,000 years. The Consul Council chamber had never been so divided. For 3 days after Professor Sora's presentation, arguments raged across the assembly. Some demanded immediate war against Earth. Others urged caution. A growing number questioned whether the integration doctrine itself needed to change. Chancellor Vexthor's crystalline form pulsed with dark colors, reflecting inner turmoil. For 50,000 years, the Consul had maintained order through absolute authority. Now one species challenged that foundation and the entire structure seemed ready to crumble. Order, Vexthor's voice boomed through the chamber. We must make a decision. Counselor Nixeral stood from his seat. He was a being of pure energy, contained within a spherical field. His species, the Lumens, were among the oldest in the galaxy. Nixeral had served on the Council for 8,000 years. Chancellor, with respect, perhaps the humans are correct, Nixeral said carefully. I've spent the last week reviewing our historical records. Do you know how many species have requested modifications to the integration doctrine in the past 10,000 years? That is not relevant, Vexthor replied. 743, Nixeral continued anyway. Every single request was denied. We told them the doctrine was unchangeable, but why? Because it truly cannot change, or because we fear losing control. Muttering spread through the chamber. Many counselors had never considered this question. Another voice spoke up. Delegate Theren, an insectoid being from the Hive Collective. I support Counselor Nixeral's position. My own species has chafed under certain restrictions for centuries. We accepted them because we had no choice. But the humans have shown us that choice exists. They've shown us that rebellion exists, countered War Master Felkron, a massive armored creature. If we allow Earth to refuse the doctrine, others will follow. The Consul will fall apart. Perhaps it should, Nixeral said boldly. Several gasps echoed through the chamber. I don't suggest we destroy the Consul, but maybe we need to evolve it. Transform it from an empire that demands submission into a true confederation of equal partners. Impossible, Vexthor said flatly. The young species require guidance. Without strict rules, chaos would reign. Chaos or freedom? Nixeral asked. Chancellor, I've done calculations. If we go to war with Earth, even if we win, the cost will be devastating. They're not bluffing about their weapons. Intelligence confirms the positions of their kinetic platforms. If they launch, we lose between 12 and 20 homeworlds. Billions dead. Perhaps trillions. Then we must strike first, Felkron insisted. Destroy Earth before they can launch. Can we? Nixeral challenged. Their colonies are hidden. They have redundant command systems. High Inquisitor Mardeth confirms that even destroying Earth itself wouldn't stop the automated launches. The moment Earth falls, the entire system triggers. There's no way to prevent it, silence fell. The terrible reality of mutually assured destruction became clear to everyone. There's another consideration, Theren added. News of the battle has spread throughout the galaxy. Other species are watching. If the mighty Consul backs down from one primitive species, they'll say we're weak. If we destroy Earth but lose dozens of our own worlds, they'll say we're cruel and vulnerable. Either way, our authority is damaged. Then what do you suggest? Vexthor demanded. We make Earth's defiance into something else, Nixeral said. We don't let them refuse the doctrine. We change the doctrine for everyone. We announce reforms. The integration doctrine becomes the cooperation agreement. Species retain sovereignty and military forces, but agree to work together for mutual benefit. We transform the Consul from an empire into a partnership. That would require unanimous council approval, Vexthor said. It would take years to negotiate. Then we start today, Nixeral replied. We tell Earth that we're willing to negotiate. We bring them into the discussions as equal partners. We show the galaxy that the Consul can evolve. The debate continued for hours. Finally, a vote was called. The question was simple. Should the Consul authorize full-scale war against Earth, or should they pursue peaceful reform? The vote took 2 days to complete, with representatives consulting their home governments. When the final count came in, the result was decisive. 621 species voted for reform. 26 voted for war. The Consul would change. Chancellor Vexthor stood before the council, his crystalline form dim. The vote is complete. I accept the will of the council. However, I cannot lead this new direction. I resign as chancellor. Shock rippled through the chamber. Vexthor had led the Consul for 12,000 years. This is an era for new thinking, Vexthor said quietly. I am too old, too set in traditional ways. The Consul needs leadership that can embrace change. I nominate Counselor Nixeral as my successor. The confirmation vote was nearly unanimous. Nixeral became the new chancellor of a galactic Consul on the verge of transformation. On Earth, Chairwoman Subin Han received the message from Consul Prime. She was the newly elected leader of Earth's united government. a former diplomat who had worked her way through decades of international negotiations. Subin read the message aloud to her council. The Galactic Consul requests formal negotiations with Earth regarding a new framework for interstellar cooperation. All previous demands are withdrawn. Earth is invited to participate as an equal partner in redesigning galactic governance. Counselor Hyuk smiled. They blinked first. They made a wise choice, Subin corrected. Now we have to be equally wise. We can't gloat or push too hard. This is delicate. Ambassador Taemin was appointed to lead Earth's negotiating team. With him would be Ambassador Kyung-yu, a skilled diplomat known for finding common ground between opposing sides. Kyung was younger than Taemin in her late 30s, with a reputation for patience and creative problem-solving. The negotiations took place on a neutral station, halfway between Earth and Consul Prime. For 6 months, representatives from dozens of species worked together to create something new. The discussions were difficult. Some species wanted to maintain strong central authority. Others demanded complete independence. Earth's representatives pushed for a middle path. Cooperation without domination. Mutual defense without control. Shared resources without tribute. Slowly, a new framework emerged. The integration doctrine was officially dissolved. In its place came the Galactic Partnership Accords. Species would retain sovereignty and military forces. Economic cooperation would be voluntary, not mandatory. Technology sharing would be mutual. A new council structure would give all species equal voice, regardless of size or age. Earth contributed something unique to the negotiations. Military consultation. Admiral Daehyun traveled to the neutral station and offered to share human tactical knowledge with any species that wanted it. "You're teaching potential enemies how to fight?" one delegate asked, confused. "We're teaching partners how to defend themselves," Daehyun replied. "A galaxy where everyone can protect themselves is more stable than one where only a few have power. Besides, sharing knowledge creates trust." Several species took him up on the offer. Within a year, mixed species military academies were established, teaching tactics and strategy to students from across the galaxy. 5 years after the battle, the galaxy had transformed. The Galactic Consul still existed, but as something completely different. A true confederation of independent species working together by choice, not force. Ambassador Taemin stood at a memorial on Earth. It honored the few people who had died in the conflict with the Consul. Mostly crew members from weapon platforms that were destroyed during the battle. Ambassador Kyung joined him. "Thinking about how it all started?" she asked. "Thinking about how much things have changed," Taemin replied. "We went from unknown primitives to major galactic players in just 5 years. Because we refused to kneel," Kyung said. "That memorial inscription says it perfectly." They both looked at the words carved into the stone. "They came expecting submission. We gave them a choice. They chose wisely. I wonder if they would have chosen war if they truly understood humans better." Taemin mused. "Maybe not," Kyung agreed. "Fear of the unknown prevented conflict. But now that they know us, respect maintains peace. That's better." News arrived that week of another species renegotiating their relationship with the Consul. The Vrel Confederation, reduced to janitors and servants for 8,000 years, were rebuilding their military and reclaiming their pride. Dozens of other species followed similar paths. Some called it the Galactic Renaissance. Others called it the human effect. Whatever the name, change swept across the galaxy. Captain Yuna commanded a joint task force now. Her crew included humans, but also lumens, Kreth, and members of a dozen other species. Together, they hunted pirates and slavers, protected trade routes, and responded to emergencies. The ESS Indomitable docked at a space station near the galactic core. Yuna walked through corridors filled with aliens who no longer looked at humans with contempt or fear. Now they nodded respectfully or waved in greeting. She met with Archmagistrate Kelvor, the commander she had defeated years ago. He now served as a liaison between the reformed Consul military and Earth's defense forces. "Captain Kim," Kelvor greeted her with his species' gesture of respect. "Your mission reports are impressive. 17 pirate bases destroyed in 6 months. Teamwork makes it possible."